Today, we're going to discuss the social and economic effects of westward expansion on Native Americans. Much conflict arose because the United States government and the Native Americans over United States expansion in the West. The government wanted to relocate the Native Americans to something called reservations. Many tribes agreed to go, but many also refused. These reservations were not suitable for farming. Their traditional hunter gatherer ways of life that the Native Americans were used to was not supported either. Government policies separated families and disrespected Native cultures and belief systems. Some reformers thought that this treatment of the Native Americans was harsh and unacceptable, so they set out to divide the reservation lands into farms for individual families under the Dawes Sorority Act of 1887. If families worked the land, they could actually work towards U.S. citizenship. This was not the way the Native Americans believed the land should be used. They wanted to work as large tribes or groups, not as individual families. Many farms actually failed. The corrupted Bureau of Indian Affairs didn't give appropriate support or supplies to needy Native families either. That caused poverty and despair on the reservations. Reformers also thought that if they taught their children the ways of the white man, it would be helpful. So a lot of them were taken from their families and sent to boarding schools. They were taught to behave like white children, they cut their hair, learned to speak English. Their culture was not honored and their traditions were not respected. The Lakota were a Native American tribe. Their leaders signed a treaty to gain the Great Lakota Reservation in the Black Hills. This land was going to be theirs forever, but gold was discovered there. Many settlers illegally rushed in, and the government did not stop them. The government hoped the Lakota would actually sell them the land. In the Battle of Little Bighorn, Colonel George Custer and his men fought to put the Lakota on that new reservation. Crazy Horse and other Lakota leaders outnumbered and defeated Custer. It was actually the biggest Native American victory against the United States, but it led to the end of freedom for Native Americans on the Great Plains. Nez Perce, the United States government wanted to relocate them to Idaho. They didn't want to leave the land that had always belonged to them. So Chief Joseph, who's pictured at the bottom of the screen, and his men were chased by the United States for 3 months as they tried to escape capture. They finally surrendered when they were told they could go back to Oregon if they did. The United States did not keep the promise. The Apache fought for their land. Their leader, Geronimo, he's pictured here, was forced to surrender. I also included a quote from Geronimo. "Once I moved about like the wind. Now I surrender to you, and that is all." A group of Lakota families decided to leave the reservation. United States soldiers surrounded them, and a shot was accidentally fired. It began the Battle of Wounded Knee. It took place, and about 300 Lakota were killed. It was the last of the wars between the United States government and the Native Americans.